And thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Tensions between President Trump and the man tasked with investigating his presidential campaign and possible links to Russia continue to grow. This week, President Trump called out Robert Mueller and others in an interview with the New York Times. And now there are reports his team is building a case to scale back the probe. CBN's Jenna Browder has the story now from Washington.
This week, President Trump issued a blunt warning to special counsel Robert Mueller. Trump telling the New York Times Mueller would cross a red line if he probed Trump family finances not tied to Russia.
I think that's a violation. Look, this is about Russia.
Mueller and his team are examining a broad range of transactions involving Trump's businesses and even some of his associates. Bloomberg News reports investigators are looking at Russian purchases of apartments in Trump buildings, Trump's involvement in a controversial New York development with Russian associates, the 2013 Miss Universe pageant in Moscow, and Trump's sale of a Florida property to a Russian oligarch. Mueller's team is also investigating Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and senior aide, and former campaign chairman Paul Manafort.
Thank you, everybody.
Mueller's mandate is broad. The Justice Department has ordered him to investigate any links between Russia and the Trump campaign, as well as any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. Trump's lawyers are reportedly trying to scale back the probe, building a case against what they call conflicts of interest. One example being that some of Mueller's team members donated money to Democratic candidates. Reports also say Trump's lawyers are discussing the president's authority to grant pardons. And in his New York Times interview, Trump stopped short of saying he would fire Mueller if he crosses the president's red line.
That should not be viewed as a threat, as a warning to what this special counsel should or should not be looking at as it relates to the president's and his family's finances.
The president's making clear that the special counsel should not move outside of the scope of the investigation.
In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Senate Republican leaders are planning a vote next Tuesday on resurrecting their health care bill. The move has been complicated by the potential absence of Arizona Senator John McCain after his diagnosis with a brain tumor. The White House and GOP leaders have been looking for ways to win over senators who've been against the plan. But so far, there's no guarantee they will gain enough votes to bring the bill before the floor for a debate. Israel is resisting international pressure to remove metal detectors at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City. Security is tight after 3 Israeli Arabs exited the Temple Mount with guns and killed 2 Israeli police officers last week. Now police are banning men under the age of 50 from coming to the Temple Mount.
Security assessments were made late last night by the Israeli National Police as well as the government officials. A decision was made that the security measures will continue in and around the area of the Old City and the Temple Mount in order to prevent any further terrorist attacks. In and around the area of the Old City, there are thousands of police officers and border police units that will respond to any incidents whatsoever.
Anyone entering the Jewish Western Wall must now pass through metal detectors and rigorous security. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is located on the Temple Mount. Muslim leaders called for mass protest at Friday afternoon prayers. They urged worshipers to pray outside the Temple Mount rather than submit to security procedures. At least 2 people are dead after a powerful earthquake hit the Greek island of Kos. The White Corner Club crashed down on a group of tourists after the 6.5 quake hit. Nearly 200 people were hurt. Churches, an old mosque, and the port's 14th century castle were damaged. But the damage done to the buildings only tells part of the story. Greek officials say at least 5 people were seriously injured on Kos. Tourists and local residents scrambled to safety. Some even leaped from balconies. U.S. officials say the Trump administration will ban American citizens from traveling to North Korea. It comes after the death of American university student Otto Warmbier. He died after falling into a coma in as a North Korean prisoner. It is not yet known whether the travel ban when that travel ban will go into effect. Still to come here on CBN NewsWatch, a missionary who was sent to prison with members of ISIS. See how this man survived and what set him free after this. For years, he served the persecuted church with the Christian organization Voice of the Martyrs. Then, at the end of a trip to Sudan, Peter Yashik was arrested, charged with espionage, and put in jail with Islamic militants. Now he's free. And he sat down with our own Gary Lane for this exclusive television interview where he revealed the horrific details of his time in prison.
Arrested during a trip to Sudan, missionary Peter Yashik was imprisoned with members of ISIS.
One of the ISIS members was a Libyan guy who, at the age of 12, was a personal guard of Osama bin Laden in Tora Bora. And later on, when he returned to Libya, he was one of the murderers who slaughtered the 20 Egyptians on the Libyan shore. He told me that if I was an American or a Russian, that he would break my neck immediately and kill me. He took out a fishing string, quite a strong fishing string from his pocket, and he was showing how he can kill a person within a few seconds with this fishing string.
Peter discovered his other cellmates were just as extreme. When asked to share news from the outside, he told them about the Paris terrorist attack.
When I said that 129 people got killed, they interrupted me and they started to shout Allahu Akbar for several minutes. So immediately I knew that the company that I was in, and I stopped telling them any more news. They called me a filthy pig or a filthy rat, and if I did not react to this new name, they started to beat me with slapping my face or fist to my face, or then they used a wooden stick. So I gradually learned to live with the new name. I was not Peter anymore, I was just filthy pig.
How did it come to this? Why was this man dedicated to helping persecuted Christians now himself persecuted? Peter's arrest came in December 2015, just 2 years after the Sudanese government thought it had expelled all foreign Christian workers from the country. While visiting Sudan, Peter met with Christian leaders and recorded some video. Agents confiscated his equipment and charged him with spying against the government. During his first 4 months in jail, Peter asked God to return him to his family. His epiphany came after he led some Eritrean prisoners to Christ.
And I suddenly started to realize that there is a purpose, that the Lord has a purpose for me to be in prison, to share the gospel with those people. And I started to be even more courageous to open my mouth and share the gospel also with the Muslims who were in the previous cell with me.
In January 2017, a Sudanese court sentenced Peter to 20 years in prison. His work helping persecuted Christians in Sudan was considered an anti-state activity, espionage.
I really was considered to be a very dangerous person, and they mentioned that I am an employee of the spy organization called VOM. So actually VOM was a spy organization. Yeah, it's a spy organization.
Not a missionary.
No,
not
it's
a mission organization.
Yeah.
The son of a pastor, Peter had experienced persecution before, growing up in communist Czechoslovakia.
A wire service bulletin flashes the word to an unbelieving world.
Christian oppression intensified in Czechoslovakia after Red Army tanks rolled through Prague in August 1968. Government agents constantly monitored Peter's parents and their Christian activities.
They knew that we were receiving Bibles and we were receiving Christian literature, and we were also my parents were distributing that.
One day, Peter returned home from school and found his parents missing.
They were arrested by secret police and interrogated, and apparently the secret police wanted to know what was going on in our house.
And 36 years later, like his parents, Peter was arrested for his Christian activities, only this time at the hands of Islamists, not communists. But God prepared Peter for his prison experience years earlier, when his father gave him a special gift.
Without saying much, he brought a book written by Richard Wurmbrand. The name of the book in German was In Gottes Untergrund, which means in God's underground in English, and I was fluent in German at that time already, so he gave me this book and he said, read this book, it will encourage your faith.
Peter's father passed at the age of 89, while Peter was in prison.
And what do you think, Peter, he would say to you about your time in prison? and what you went through if he were still around now and he knew about it? All the details.
Yeah, I'm quite sure that he would be proud of me. I'm quite sure, yeah.
Peter was freed after spending 14 months in prison. He credits the Czech government for negotiating his release and the prayers and support of Christians around the world. Nearly 500,000 people signed a petition for him, and thousands sent encouraging cards and letters. Peter says he was brought to tears when he heard some Sudanese women near the prison singing Christian praise songs. How did your experience change you? How is Peter Jacek different now compared to before your prison experience?
When you come through this situation, you realize that everything that you have is a grace of God, and it is on His strength that it is in prison. It is not your own strength that you can survive. Being humble and being faithful till the last moment, this is the moment when we can be more than conquerors when we go through difficult situation because of our faith in Jesus Christ.
A humble servant of the persecuted church, persecuted himself, and then freed from prison. Grateful for those who prayed and for learning to wait patiently on God for victory and grace. Gary Lane, CBN News, Prague.
Up next, Christopher Nolan brings us a real-life war story to the big screen. We'll take you behind the scenes of Dunkirk and tell you if it's a film the entire family can enjoy. The summer movie season continues to heat up, and the next film you may want to consider seeing is an epic action thriller, Dunkirk. Here's your first look.
You can practically see it from here.
What?
Home. There are 400,000 men trapped in one place, on a beach. Their backs to the sea, the enemy closing in all around them. And it's just a matter of time before they face surrender or annihilation. And the fact that this story does not end in either surrender or annihilation is what makes it one of the greatest stories in human history, and one which I've been wanting to tell for quite some time.
Dunkirk is Christopher Nolan's first film based on a true story, with limited computer-generated special effects and actors the same age as the World War II soldiers. Nolan sets out to recreate the historic battle as close to reality as possible.
The traditional thing in Hollywood movies is to cast 28, 29-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and pretend they're younger. We wanted to cast people of the right age. We wanted kids who would experience these events the way people would have at the time. And it was very important to us to find interesting, fresh faces to do that.
Knowing that this actually happened to people in real life makes it pretty intense.
The young actors, including Harry Styles in his acting debut, talk about their experience on set in this epic war film.
I think it was important to shoot on location to give the film a perspective and to give us a perspective. I wasn't on the beach with the boys, but that must have been amazing.
I was coming out onto the beach and there was like 1,300 extras, all dressed in battle gear. There was Spitfires flying overhead, destroyers in the background. The beach was set dressed, sandbags and trucks and everything, and there was explosions going off in the sand. And it was just so real. You can never really put yourself there, but that is, I think, the closest you can come to putting yourself in that situation, and the pure panic and terror.
So vulnerable, so vulnerable. I mean, from every aspect as well. Sitting ducks on the beach, sitting ducks on the water, sitting ducks in the air. You're just so exposed, you've got nothing to shield you.
It's not, pretend there's an explosion happening over here, it's actually going on, and then I think, that just means you get natural reactions to stuff.
Yeah, any reactions you have are just a response to what's going on around you. It's just kind of honest.
I never actually felt like I was thinking about acting because everything was there for you. There was kind of no acting required in many situations with everything that was flying around your head or exploding. And then you get this bloody Spitfire going across your head and you're like, oh, okay. With Jack.
Yeah, don't worry. Any day.
He's on me!
I was up in the air over the channel with the Spitfires. They strapped the IMAX to the wing of the plane that I was in and flew it over, swooping over the channel with a massive IMAX camera on the wing.
The thing with the IMAX is just it's so epic, and I think that's with Chris's films. He does that so well. He captures that huge, vast picture, which just sucks you in. It's like a black hole, it just pulls you in.
We wouldn't be doing the story justice if he shot it on anything else, yeah.
What was your favourite thing about working with Chris? It's funny you asked that, Finlay. He leads by example so much. He's like the first one there, the last one to leave.
Very present. Yeah, very hands-on.
Yeah, I was always told about, like, if you were to ever do a film, that you'd hear the directors shouting the directions from 3 miles away in a tent. But, you know, Chris is there the whole time. You see the camera there and Chris there, so.
Literally right beside it, the little monitor. Yeah.
These huge sets and there's kind of, you know, real Spitfires and warships all around you and all the rest of it, thousands of extras.
The ship's about to leave!
The scale of this was absolutely massive. I think the general public are in for like an epic suspense thriller based within the framework of historical background.
We're going to watch like a super intense movie.
It just doesn't give the audience time to think. You're just plunged straight into this world and you're just kind of swept along in it. And you're just taken with you. You see this world through their eyes and ears, and that story really needs to be told.
It's a film of survival and panic. It's breathless.
I think it's going to be bloody brilliant.
So, is Dunkirk a film for the entire family? Let's turn to our friends at Focus on the Family's Plugged In Online to learn their thoughts on the film. This week, they also check out Transformers: The Last Night.
There are 400,000 men on this beach.
The movie Dunkirk swoops in on the coast of France in 1940. There, World War II Allied soldiers are trapped on the beaches waiting for rescue while enemy forces rumble ever closer. The problem is, British destroyers are little more than sitting ducks for the German warplanes.
It's coming back round.
And so the British Royal Navy issues a decree for all local boats to travel to Dunkirk. They must get these stranded men back to England by any means necessary, or risk the possibility of losing hundreds of thousands of lives.
Where are we going?
Dunkirk.
I'm not going back.
There's no hiding from this sun.
This film jumps back and forth in time and perspective to paint a full picture of the chaos at hand. Commanding officers struggle to find anything that floats and take men off that beachhead. And at the same time, a handful of Spitfire pilots try to make every bullet count as they battle to keep enemy fighters at bay. This has already been called one of director Christopher Nolan's best films, and it is indeed a well-crafted depiction of history. It shows the terror of war, as well as the pure bravery, heroism, and self-sacrifice in the midst of that terrible event. Of course, viewers will need to expect realistic war violence. There's not a lot of gore, but many scenes of death, and quite a bit of coarse and foul language too. So I'm giving Dunkirk a 3 out of 5 for family friendliness. For the full review, visit us at PluggedIn.com. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Bob Olszewski for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
That's a quick look at your weekend entertainment. You can also check us out at Studio 5 online to learn more about those reviews. Stay with us. We'll be coming right back. And welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Friday Faithful. And today's word is a simple but very powerful one. Consider this: no matter where you are in life at this moment, remember, your now is not your forever. This moment is temporary, and even better days are ahead. With that word, be sure to make this a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. And we would love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. And you can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And you can always reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Have a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday.